Comic Book Savant, episode 390. Welcome to the Comic Book Savant podcast. I'm your host, James Harris. This episode, we're going to go over some news and announcements that came out of San Diego Comic-Con 2008. But before I get into all that, as always, I'd like to give a shout out to my friends over at the Comics Podcast Network. If you have found this podcast and you enjoy it and you want to find more comic book related podcasts and programming, definitely take a moment to stop by the Comics Podcast Network. It is a group of podcasters that basically just come together to support one another. You have one page where you literally have hundreds of different comic book related podcasts listed there for you to find if you're a fan and you're looking for said content. I've been a member for about 12 years of the Comics Podcast Network. It's helped my show tremendously, and it's helped a ton of other comic book podcasters get discovered by you guys, the listeners, and help grow their audience. So if you definitely have a moment and you're interested in finding more content like this, take a moment to stop by the Comics Podcast Network at comicspodcast.com. It's a really great resource. And if you yourself happen to be a comic book podcaster and want to kind of grow your audience, also you can use it as a resource. You can email the administrator to the group and see if you can get your show added to help get more eyes on your show as well. But with that being said, I'd like to give a shout out to the final sponsor for this episode, which is InStockTrades.com, one of the best places on the internet to get your collected editions, manga, oversized issues. They specialize in anything that's like a bound edition of a comic. They have some of the best prices around. They have discounts ranging from 35, 42 up to 50% off. They have a page that's updated, if I remember, every Tuesday afternoon with their deals of the week. Those books are discounted 50% off. If you're a U.S.-based customer, you place an order $50 or more, you get free shipping within the U.S. That is only for U.S.-based customers. But if you happen to be an international listener and you're curious about InStockTrades.com and how much you can save, definitely they have some of the most competitive international shipping rates around. So you can still save a ton of money. You might have to wait a while for the shipping, depending where you live in the world, but you definitely still save a ton of money. So with all that being said, let's jump into this episode about San Diego Comic-Con. It was primarily dominated, in a lot of people's minds and following everything online through DC. Marvel didn't have a major presence there. No Hall H panel or nothing of that sort. HBO didn't really have Game of Thrones there. So some of the big attention grabbers that normally will be Stranger Things weren't there. And that was a big thing, that it really cleared the way for DC to have a very big Comic-Con, which they did. They had so many things there. They had they're ramping up to launch the DC Universe online streaming service. They had a whole experience there that people could go through, and they had like a Court of Owls section, a done up room that's set up to look like Dick Grayson's apartment from the new Titan series that they're going to be launching. They had this whole thing that people could go in and have tablets and try out the online service to kind of get a feel for how it's going to be when it launches. I think it's supposed to launch in September. I don't know if they dropped an official release date for the service. I know it's supposed to be a beta going on in a few days, sometime in August. I'm trying to get in on that beta, but I talk about the DC Universe service in another episode that I'm going to drop later this week, where I really get in and break down the service itself and my feelings about it. But they did a lot with that, really ramping up for what's going to come with the service. And again, I talk about it in more detail. Excuse me. You'll hear on Thursday with that episode I'll drop there, where I really dig down deep. Is this focusing in, because me consuming a lot of my comics digitally, DC Universe could possibly be a big game changer. So I go into way more detail with that. So we're going to kind of table that. A lot of trailers dropped. We had the first official trailer for Glass dropped. It looked phenomenal. We had trailers for Aquaman and Shazam. And they also showed some Wonder Woman footage as well from Wonder Woman 1984, which I think I saw in one of the interviews, because I watched so much stuff trying to get all the news and to put together for this podcast. If I remember correctly, I think the official title of the movie is going to be Wonder Woman 1984. I'm pretty sure Jeff Johns, in maybe an interview he did with Collider Video, he was asked the question, is that the official title of the movie? And Jeff Johns said it was. Because most people thought it was just a working title for the movie that they were going by. But pretty much at this point, unless he was lying, and they change it down the road, it's going to be Wonder Woman 1984. Which is releasing in November of 2019, and they were like, they showed some footage. The reaction to the footage was mixed from the different things that I heard online. It wasn't released to the public, of course, because they only had been filming for a couple of weeks at the time of San Diego Comic-Con. So it was just basically one scene that they had put together, to show the crowd and let them know, how things were going. I heard it's a lot brighter, vibrant colors, a lighter tone to it. So I trust Patty Jenkins, and I enjoyed the first movie. So I do look forward to seeing what they do in this sequel. The Aquaman trailer, it was good to finally see some footage from Aquaman, because it was like, I felt like after, at this point it was like a myth. Was it really happening? We start seeing pictures, and all that kind of stuff. So I was just curious to see everything on the screen in action. And I have to say, it didn't do anything to heighten my anticipation for the movie at all. It was cool to see it. It just didn't do anything to heighten my anticipation. I liked what I saw. I didn't love it. It was said that they showed an extended trailer there in the panel that was way better and got a lot of people excited. I wish we could have seen that, because the trailer didn't do that for me. So if it was additional footage, an extended footage, or extended, I guess, kind of like trailer or scissor reel they had put together that did that, I wish we could have saw it, because again, it just didn't do what I wanted it to do for me, which is get me so, really hype or frenzied for the movie. And it was just kind of like, it hit me as meh. Some people were like, oh, it's the best thing ever. I didn't feel that way. It didn't trigger me in any kind of way to want to see this movie any more than I already, had previously. And I think the purpose of trailers is to make you want to see a movie, not make you indifferent to it or ambiguous to, or unchange the needle. You need trailers to pump people up to talk about your movie, want to see your movie, and it didn't hit that mark for me, unfortunately. Now with the Shazam trailer, I have to say I was pleasantly surprised by it, because this was a movie that was kind of a throwaway for me, that I was like, I know I would probably go see it to review it, for the podcast and the YouTube channel. I review pretty much almost every comic book movie, so it's a given I'm going to see it. So, but I didn't really, it's not one of those movies that was like high on my list of most anticipated movies to see going into next year. But I have to say, this trailer did what I wanted the Aquaman trailer to do. It didn't get me like super frenzied, but this movie was like, this is something I have to cover. It actually was a good breath of fresh air, a nice change of pace. And it got me interested in this movie, which before I wasn't really interested on. I knew I would see it, but not necessarily looking forward to it. Thought it would be kind of cheesy, but they kind of lean into it and play into those kind of tropes and the campiness that might be associated with the Shazam character. And really, it seems to, fit a lot of people. A lot of stuff was leaked while they were filming about the costume. It looked a lot better, in the trailer. But it looks interesting. I'm not going to say it, it knocked my socks off, but it really got on my radar now that this really could be a fun movie and something, you can have a really good time with. Family-friendly movie, definitely lighter in tone, not this is as dark as some of the, other stuff, which that didn't bother me at all, but it fits for this character. They definitely seem like they nailed what they wanted to do. And it appears, we always have to think about the final product. We've seen a lot of things previously where trailers looked awesome, and then we got the final product and it was not as good. So only time will tell. So we got till April 5th, 2019 is when it's dropping. So it's not super far away. But so it'll be curious to see how that lands come next year. And then also Aquaman is coming out in December, so it's good to finally see a trailer. Hopefully we get more trailers and a better trailer. It comes out December 21st of this year. Also I forgot to mention about Glass. Glass drops January 18th of 2019. So, we definitely have a lot to look forward to on that front. And it was good seeing some first peeks of Glass, Aquaman, Shazam, to kind of, get those movies in our mind, because they'll definitely drop before the next, Comic-Con. So it's good to finally, see these things in action in front of us. Another thing that came out that I'm super excited for, that I cover, I've covered here on the podcast. I've been doing the reviews going forward on the YouTube channel for Voltron, the Legendary Defender. Is season 7 it was announced at Comic-Con that it's going to be 2 more seasons, season 7 and season 8. They had kind of the history of Voltron Legendary Defender is originally it started with like 13 episodes per season. Then Netflix wanted to put out more stuff more frequently. So then they were alternating. One season would be like 6 episodes and the next would be 7. And they were kind of splitting the seasons in half. And now they're going back because they're in the final stretch. There's 26 episodes left. So it'll be 13 for season 7, 13 for season 8, and it'll end at season 8. From what the creators and the showrunners said, the series will be finished by the end of the year, it looks like. So season 7, we just got off of season 6. And if you want to hear my thoughts on season 6, check out Comic Book Savant, the YouTube channel. And I did a review for season 6. But season 7 is going to premiere August 10th. And then they said, a couple of months later, probably at the rate they've been going, because I think that season 6 dropped like June, so if they're popping off about every 2 months, maybe every 3 months, it's probably going to be like October, maybe November when that last season drops at the rate they've been going, because they've been relatively consistent in getting those, getting the seasons out back to back, and they said it would be completed by year's end. So I'm definitely looking forward to that. This show is, phenomenal. I'm an 80s kid, so I grew up on the 84 Voltron with the Lions. They've done such a good job mixing all the history from that show into this show, and making it adult to appear, it appeals to adults, and they have things that appeal to kids as well. I've really, really enjoyed it. And I'm wondering, since they're on the home stretch of this show, if you don't know, the showrunners have worked on Avatar: The Last Airbender, The Legend of Korra, and now, Voltron. So I'm curious on what childhood, kind of property they have a good hand at it. And I would love maybe to see them revamp like Thundercats. I really missed out that one season that was it? I think it was on Cartoon Network a few years back, where it wasn't them, but a group did a reboot, a more adult take on Thundercats, and was so good. And it only lasted one season. I would love them to do that, seeing how well they handled Voltron and mixed in all the mythos from all the previous stuff into the show and expanded and expounded even more. It's been a fun ride, most definitely. So it's on Netflix. You can go back and get caught up if you just want to binge some quality animation and great storytelling. Definitely hit Netflix up. Check out Voltron season 1 through 6, because you can get that now in just a couple of weeks or a week and a half or so. You'll be able to watch season 7. Then also DC announced they're going up to 4 DC animated films in 2019. During Comic-Con, they dropped The Death of Superman. They did a proper adaptation. Their first ever DC animated movie was Superman Doomsday. And it was never the greatest movie. It's probably one of my least favorite out of all the DC animated films. So they decided to do it proper and do a more proper comics adaptation of it. And they did it in 2 parts. It just released The Death of Superman during Comic-Con weekend. It dropped. Early next year, they're going to be dropping the second part, which is Superman, The Reign of the Supermen. And then we're going to have Justice League versus the Fatal 5 dropping. Then next summer is going to be Batman Hush, which I'm looking super forward to that. And then towards the end of the year, they didn't give a time frame yet on it, is going to be Wonder Woman Bloodline. So they're finally getting around to doing another Wonder Woman animated movie, because I really enjoyed the first Wonder Woman animated movie they did very early on. And I own that one as well. So I'm looking forward to them following up finally. I thought they missed a big opportunity when Wonder Woman came out last year. Was it last year? I think it was last year that they didn't do a new movie then. But I guess maybe this will line up somewhere around when Wonder Woman 1984 is going to drop, because it drops in like November, and they said towards year end. So it's probably going to be lined up to coincide with the release of the film, the motion picture, with this animated film. When Wonder Woman dropped last year, they upgraded and did like an anniversary edition of the first Wonder Woman animated movie, which was cool, but I would have liked another movie, because I really enjoyed the first one and always thought they should go back and do more with the Wonder Woman character. But at least they're getting around to it now. But, it was so much other stuff. We have another thing DC/Warner Brothers did. They're doing a lot. And this is kind of to coincide with the DC Universe streaming service, where they're remastering a lot of their old films. They announced at the show that they were remastering. I think it's out now. It came out during Comic-Con. They did a remaster of Supergirl, the Supergirl movie with Helen Slater. Fun fact, Helen Slater actually plays Supergirl's adopted mother on the Supergirl TV show, which I always thought was cool. She plays her mom, but she played her back, and I think that Supergirl came out in like 84, 85 or whatever. And it's so funny. Not many people talk about that when they talk about superhero movies. And I've been on a huge kick lately, building up my, because I'm buying my movies digitally, but my movie collection. I've been on this kick, like filling up holes in my comic book movie collection. And I think when I was doing, I'm sorry for the noise in the background, because I hear it in my headphones. So I know you guys probably are picking it up. Motorcycle. Gotta love apartment living. But anyway, I watched Supergirl about a year ago. I can't remember. I found it was on TV or something, or I found it online, and I watched it. And I hadn't watched it since like I was a kid, and I really forgot a lot about the movie. It's not the best. It's it came out right in between, I think, like Superman 2 and Superman 3, like, in the 80s, and they loosely connected. They have the actor that played Jimmy Olsen in the Christopher Reeves Superman movies make an appearance in the movie. It's if you've never seen it, it's worth a view. I mean, if you can find it cheaply on Blu-ray, it might be something to pick up. It's not the greatest thing. It's like a lot of those 80 movies, like that Swamp Thing. They weren't the best quality, but it was fun because I've become such a huge fan of the Supergirl TV show on the CW, to see that and knowing that her adopted Earth mother they've done a lot of cool nods like that. Excuse me, on the show with Supergirl, like Dean Cain was her adopted Earth father, which he played Clark Kent in the Adventures of Lois and Clark. Let's see what other tie-ins they had. They've had Linda Carter, 77 Wonder Woman. They've had her as an alien president on the show, which is kind of cool. What other tie-ins they've had? They've had Lois from Lois and Clark. I'm seeing her, the Desperate Housewives. Gosh, I can't remember her name. But they had her play. They do a lot of tie-ins. All the CW shows kind of do that with the historic stuff. That they bring those actors back to play different roles in their show to just give a kind of wink and a nod to the history, which I always think is kind of cool. They did a Blu-ray release for Supergirl, and I think that's going to be high res on the streaming service. They're redoing the Batman animated series in Blu-ray in high def for the first time, which is a huge thing for me because I'm a big fan of the animated series as well as the Justice League and the Justice League Unlimited. All of those are being remastered. This will be the first time for Batman the animated series, and it'll be streaming high def on the service, as well as the Justice League. And it's kind of been a crazy thing with the Justice League because I owned, before I got ditched physical media, I had all the seasons on DVD, and I think they did, and I ended up buying all of them. I think right before I stopped buying physical media, they had just released, they went back and released Justice League, the 2 seasons of Justice League, or at least season 1 of Justice League on Blu-ray, and I had that. But they hadn't finished out doing it. So even to get it digitally, which I haven't because I wanted HD masters of it, so hopefully it'll finally be released so I can pick that stuff up, because I can watch that. I can watch the Justice League over and over and Batman the animated series. So all of that stuff is going to be a huge set. I think it's going to have all 5 seasons of Batman the animated series on Blu-ray, with Mask of the Phantasm and Batman Sub-Zero movies all included in this box set that's going to be coming out. I want to say they said it was in October that it's going to drop, which is going to be worth it if you're a huge fan and you want to see that stuff in the remastered in high definition. That's going to be something that you might want to put on your Christmas list for people to pick up for you, because that's going to be like a getter for real. And it's going to be streaming on a service as well. So you have multiple options if you don't want to plunk down. I mean, I'm assuming that box set, you're talking about 5 seasons, could be anywhere from $100 to $200. Then you're getting Mask of the Phantasm, and everything in there is going to be remastered, which is great because that stuff hasn't been in high definition. So if you're a fan of all of it, it's going to be good. It was other announcements made. Marvel did some announcements. They announced that they were doing 3 new online comics that were based on the Netflix series. So they're going to have a Luke Cage, an Iron Fist, and a Jessica Jones that's going to be dropping. The one thing I didn't get, I got a little bit more news last year when I did this, because DC does a really good job with their panels and streaming them online. They really didn't do that much this year, so it was so much news scattered around. So I looked at a lot of different sources like IGN, Collider, and parsed as much news as I could. it was a lot to keep up with, especially because I wanted to focus on the DC Universe service because that's been such a big deal. The movie trailers. Wanted to talk about Voltron. I'm trying to see any other news that I came across from the convention that was big. I can't think of anything else offhand, but those were some of the things that I saw that really, excited me going into the end of this year into next year. We have some of these with DC as well. Their Black Label that's going to be launching soon. I previously did my podcast talking about their initiative with all their different imprints, and Black Label's about to kick up. I think is it Batman Hell or Batman Damned? I think is the first book to launch off of Black Label, and I think they said that's dropping in October. So it's a lot to look forward to across the board with DC. I can't lie, like as being a comics fan, and the content that I cover is kind of all over the place. I go with kind of what I feel. I do some DC, I do some independent. I do kind of where my desire leads me at the time, and try to give you guys as much as diverse plate of stuff to kind of bring to your attention if it's not already on your radar. You guys bring stuff to my attention that, that I then check out. So I love that interactions. But these are just some of the tidbits that I had that I picked up, like I said, that was of interest to me coming out of Comic-Con. I have a whole episode, like I said, coming up on Thursday, where I talk specifically about the DC Universe Online service pricing, all the information I could gather about the service. That'll be Thursday. That's all I really have for you guys for this episode. Don't forget, if you haven't already, I'm trying to hurry up and get to 100 subscribers on YouTube. At least that's the first main milestone. It'll be cool with the anniversary coming up next month. And we're just a few days away from August. August is Wednesday. That I want to try to get before the end of August to hit 100 subscribers. I'm like in 76, 77 subscribers. So I'm not that far away. So if you haven't subscribed to the YouTube channel, just take a moment to do so. I would greatly appreciate it. Also, if you ever need to find any information about the podcast as well as the YouTube channel, you can find everything at my website, which is comicbooksavant.com. Also, follow me on social media. It's at Comic Book Savant on Twitter and Instagram. I'm not super active on Twitter because I never just could get Twitter. I do more posting on Instagram, so if you can give me a follow there. It's also, you can like the Facebook page. It's facebook.com/Comic Book Savant. And I also have a Facebook group as well, excuse me, that you can, I have a link on the website as well. So if you go up, you'll see a link for Facebook group. It'll take you right over, and you can request to be a member, and then I'll approve you, and then we just talk about things that I want to cover on the show and just like talk to you guys directly. So I do that, and I interact in the Facebook group as much as possible. Also, if you're considering or you're wanting to support the show further, you can always check out my Patreon, which is Patreon, patreon.com/Comic Book Savant. So if you want to consider becoming a Patreon, you can check out the page, and it breaks down all the different tiers and how you can help support the show. Or if you just want to do like a one-time donation, I have a PayPal Pay Me link on the site. If you click on the support link on the Comic Book Savant site, it'll take you to links to all the different stuff, and you can do a one-time donation. Every little bit helps make the show better, and I greatly appreciate anything you guys can do as far as spreading the word or supporting financially. It's not a requirement. It's just a request. If you like the content that I do and you want it to help it continue and the show to just improve, you have those options to do so. But that's all I have for you guys for this episode. It'll definitely be, like I said, Thursday. It'll be DC Universe Online Streaming Service episode where I'll be talking about that in detail. And then I'll have 2 videos dropping this week on the YouTube channel as well. So be on the lookout for all of that content. But that's all I have for you guys for this episode. I'll see you next time, and you have a good week. See you soon.